Okay, hello everybody. This is the fourth in the videos of the COMP3218 game designing development module coursework. This is one of the games that we had a bit of technical difficulty with getting running, so we had to do it separately. What we've had done is recorded a video of this, and then we're going to discuss what we thought of the game over the top of it. Charlie, can you tell us what this first coursework was about?
Yes, so the coursework specification was for the students to develop a simple game based around a central core dynamic and then develop a level that would tutorial that core dynamic sensibly to the player.
Excellent. So this game is untitled, but we're going to call it Beezzz, and it looks like a sort of strategy game.
Yes.
Charlie, what was going on at this point in the game?
So this is the beginning of the tutorial to the game, right? They've gone for a text-based tutorial here that's sort of like layered on top of the level. So I'm sort of practicing the movement controls, classic sort of 3D movements using WSD and Q and E. So that's good playing into paradigms that are typical for this sort of game. And then you've got the tutorial here again, sort of coming up about how you can select and deselect hives. I don't know if you've ever played any of these sort of strategy games before, where it's essentially about how long it takes to sort of send troops to a node. Okay, so it's all about basically being able to like send your bees out to different flowers, and it takes a while for them to get there. And if they come into contact with bees from the other hive, then it's a clash. But they've led it with this very text-based tutorial that is sort of explaining everything.
It's quite good how it sort of it pauses you almost at each time it introduces new things. So it definitely reveals what you need to do. It does. At a good pace, at the user's pace.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a piece by piece, and it explains each bit as it happens. And it's all done sort of in situ, and it's pointing out when these things happen. So something's happened on the other side. The enemy's captured a flower, so it's telling you all about that. I guess one thing that's worth bearing in mind is that this is actually sort of the game live, as it were. You don't have like a special tutorial level, so you almost certainly lose the first time, because as you're learning all these things going, the enemy is busy capturing loads of flowers.
So actually, so having spoken to them in the expo, there are a couple of special modes that limit the opponent bees until you've got a certain way through the tutorial.
Oh, I see.
So it's staggered. They don't do anything at all for the first few moves.
Oh, very clever.
Nothing. Okay. And then they don't do anything aggressively until you've reached a certain part of the tutorial,
where you're ready for an attack.
And then you're ready for an attack, and they turn on full AI.
Okay,
which is quite neat.
Okay, very clever. So that's making sure that difficulty is progressing through at a nice reasoned rate. The player has time to learn while still engaging with these things without having come to attack. Okay,
cool. I don't know if that came across while you were playing it though. So it might not be. Did you feel under pressure straight away when you were playing it?
I didn't. No, I didn't. I felt so. To be honest, throughout the tutorial, I found it was fine, and then I got to playing the game. And quickly lost. And I guess I assumed that, or maybe I lost so quickly because I was in noddy mode for the whole of the tutorial while he was off busy winning the game. But maybe that's not the case. So there is something actually.
It does look quite a different amount. Like you're not spawning as many bees, nearly as many bees as the
sure. So
is.
I mean, I've just been following the tutorial commands here, and I'm clearly behind. So I think this is something I learned with this game. Actually, I played it a little bit. And it's just very hard. It's just very hard. I think the AI is just better than you. There's a lot of this sort of clicking around and trying to like maintain all of your flowers, and obviously because it's a computer, it can like maintain all of its things instantaneously.
It's the dilemma of the cheating AI, isn't it?
Exactly. So
the AI can cheat and it can get an advantage, and you almost need to take advantage of that to make an even slightly intelligent AI. Without that, it's very difficult. But you have to balance that so the player doesn't feel cheated. And I think you felt a little bit cheated. By the quality of the AI.
No, indeed. So this is the bug, as it were. You may have noticed my character's been clicking around trying to do things, and it's failed. This seems to only happen in the game when you've played through the tutorial.
Okay.
Okay. If you play the tutorial, then eventually you'll get to the end of it, and you'll stop being. You can't interact with anything.
Okay.
And the console throws up a bunch of null pointer exceptions or something like that's going on. So I think there's some bug in there with the tutorial. Maybe it's looking for a final tutorial page that isn't there or something. Awesome. But I'm not quite sure. But if you play the game with the tutorial dismissed, then it's not a problem.
Oh, and it all runs. Okay.
So let's talk a little bit about the dynamics here. I think they've gone for a classic territory acquisition game here, right?
Absolutely.
It's a mix of resources, and some resources are more valuable than others. So the yellow flowers are less than the orange flowers, are less than the red flowers. Okay, and the red flowers are harder to get to because they're nearer to the enemy and they're further away from you as well. So that's another classic sort of spatial reasoning problem, and you can reinforce the easy flowers easily, whereas reinforcing your far flowers takes a long time to get out there. There's only one resource they will feed into, which is honey, but I think the diversity of these resources with regards to spatially speaking makes that fine. Okay, they're all sources of honey, but it's a bit like things like Dungeon Keeper, where the gold is easy to get to, the gems is harder to get to. They both just provide money, but it's about the difficulty of accessing it. So I think that's worked fine. That is definitely a strong core dynamic. And they've built towards one of the things that's interesting with doing that. One of the downsides to it is one of the things that's fun about territory acquisitions is this notion of spatially controlling areas. And I don't know if you've seen, right? You don't have to have the adjacent flower. You can just send them straight over.
Yes.
Now they've limited it a little bit because obviously if you just go straight over, your bees have a lot further to travel. Yeah. But it makes it a bit difficult for the player to sort of manage spatially, because if you think about it, what you're actually seeing here is a network where all nodes are connected to all other nodes with just basically a variable which is distance, and that's quite high complexity, I think. What do you think?
In terms of the player understanding?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot to keep track of.
And also, they've done this lovely thing with the bees as a particle effect, but it's quite hard to see how many bees are there.
And which bees are yours, I think.
And which bees are yours as well.
Presentation of that is
so, I mean, it shows that who's the dominant person at a flower with the hex, but you don't know by how much. Yeah. I think maybe if you click on the flower, it might tell you, but I don't think it does. I can't remember. Yeah. But there was a situation definitely where I lost once because he took one of the flowers near to my hive. And I thought, sod it, it's only a low resource flower anyway. And he built up 1 million bees on it and then took my hive. Okay, but I didn't know that was an impending doom because it was hard. All I saw was a cloud of bees. Yeah. Okay, so that's it. So as you can see here, I'm slowly losing the game basically at this point. And it's just difficult because you're constantly touching up flowers to try and keep them going, and then trying to use this sort of interface here to upgrade your hive and things. I've got some honey here to spend, but I've just been too busy firefighting flowers to do it. And
the games that are like this don't tend to have very much in the way of upgrading and stuff live, do you? So do you think that's too much complexity and without adding enough depth?
Think it's what you have here actually is a couple of things. Okay, so first of all, I don't think you have, because it's all real time, you don't have the time that you do in a traditional RTS. Marching your troops over to the other side in an RTS takes a while, whereas in this game, the AI can be on your doorstep in a matter of seconds. Yeah. So it's hard to, you don't have a lot of thinking time. And the other thing is you've got, so there you go, see I've lost. So, and it was hard to see how I lost that there because he basically just sent a massive swarm over.
What's happened here?
So just, when you reset the game, it max bees.
Oh, I see, max bees on everything. Okay.
I think that's a small bug, but that's no problem. But yeah, so the other thing they've got here is they've got a very strong example of a reinforcing feedback loop. Okay, in that once the other side gets the upper hand on you, it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And there's not much you can do once you're losing because they're generating more honey, so they'll have more bees. So that's it. So at this point in the game where there's empty nodes, it's not so much of a problem because it's just basically the rate of fill out. But then once you get to that point, then it just becomes a slow descent into the sea. I think the problem is as a human you make mistakes, but I'm not sure the AI does. But I think that's.
Is there anything you could do to balance that though? This sort of game it's difficult to put something in that is a negative reinforcement, other than like random events or something. Like a random, like a flower could explode that has all of his, or like die, or something. Like it could die because there's not enough rainfall or something like that.
I think
that has all his bees on it,
maybe
and that might balance it back out again. But.
Yeah, sure. Or maybe you give things that are limited, sort of things that completely change the dynamic of the game. So in a typical RTS, the one way you might do that is you sort of like you accept that you're losing, but you make a daring raid on their resources at the back. But because the resources are everywhere in this one, that's a bit difficult. So, but I think that's fine. You know, maybe it's a bit hard, but they have thought about what is fun about a resource gathering game here, and territory acquisition, and they have sort of like put that in. Another minor note, this interface of you have the lines between the flowers, and the idea is you can tell when you're being attacked because it's an orange line as opposed to a white line. That's a bit flimsy, I think. It's hard to see that. I think one of the problems of this game is that there's not enough to draw your attention immediately to things that are going on. But
do you think coloured bees would help?
Yes,
I think if you could see a swarm of red or a swarm of blue, I think you'd get a much better sense visually of
certainly when there's a collision, right? Yeah. Because one of the things you have is you have like a load of there you go. That's the end of it, I think.
We'll just start again. Carry on.
Sure. So if you have a load of bees in one place, you don't know whether to reinforce because it just looks like a pile of bees. Yeah. So maybe if you had a few like sort of you can see, it's mostly red. Okay, I need to send some more in.
I think it'd be a really neat visual effect as well. I think it'd look lovely.
Indeed, we're quibbling over minor interface here. Let's just remind ourselves that the most important things here are the dynamics, okay, and the tutorial and level design. And I think that they've handled that really, really well. Yeah. They've done a nice little bit of asymmetry here. I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a second yellow flower up that way, so it sort of forces a bit of a twist. That's a nice bit of
but on the whole, between the two players, it's very symmetrical. You could have made a very asymmetrical map.
It's not asymmetrical in terms of the player, but it means that I guess what players are biased towards corners. So blue is biased towards this corner because it's got an orange flower on the side, and red is biased towards this corner.
Absolutely.
So it means that you don't just have a straight line down the middle. It's a little bit of a sort of twist there.
I had noticed that, but only on this run through. I hadn't noticed it when I played the last few.
So that's nice, and I think that the tutorial's okay. It's fine. There's a few things that it doesn't necessarily. It's doing it in this sort of small text, and there might be a better way to sort of engage them. But it's doing this in this nice staged way, and they have controlled the AI in a way that makes you
icons or something like that, or like a quarter screenshot or something like that, showing you clicking on the thing or dragging a line between them, or whatever the action is, might be a bit more of an easy to interpret way than having to pause and read a load of text.
Sure. But I think it's but these are minor issues here. I think it is they've largely capitalised, as I say, on what's important about the dynamic, and they've also picked up on what's in this sort of slow staging tutorial.
I like the tutorial. So, I like how it only lets you go as it at its speed.
Yes, indeed.
And it's not, because of the pace of the game, it's not massively disruptive. Like if it was an action game and it kept pausing you this much, it would be annoying. Because things are sort of your turn, your movements, your actions are quite slow. Even though that things are happening live, because your actions are quite slow, it doesn't matter that it pauses you occasionally to give you the next bit of the tutorial.
Okay, I think that's enough. It's a very good game, and nice, and well done.
Great work, guys. Thank you.
Bye.